This is aloes wood, sacred, aromatic, protective, and it smells like heaven. So I wrap this social media transmission in beautiful divine light. I call in Archangel Uriel, guardian of the north, Archangel Michael, guardian of the south, Archangel Gabriel, guardian of the west, and Archangel Raphael, guardian of the east. Good evening, everyone. With love, with gratitude, with reverence, I am so blessed that you're joining me here. So this is story time, true accounts of divinely designed events in my life. And so I wanted to talk about this story because I reference like karmic relationships a lot and past life. And because this is my last life, I have a lot of cleaning up to do. Karmic ties that need to be seen to completion, soul contracts that need to be seen to completion. And so literally every relationship that I've ever been in with people is karmic, is past life. So even my clients that come into my healing space, many of them I have known in past lives. And even when I go to the grocery store, like everyone looks familiar. And so it's, when I was a child, it would be very unnerving. And I got to the point as an adult where I wouldn't even wave to people that would wave to me. Or I just wouldn't even be looking. I would just stay with my blinders on and go about my business and do my thing. And I would even have people say that, like, God, you didn't even wave at me when I waved at you. And so anyhow, I wanted to share this particular story because last year I kept getting this download that I needed to go where invited, go where you're invited, and that I needed to anchor my energy in very specific locations, but go where you're invited. And I was invited by like complete strangers to go to like Texas. I didn't go. And so I wasn't trusting it enough. And then beautiful Diana, whom I traveled to Mexico with, she invited me last year up to the Central Coast of California. And so I went up there and spent a week up there. And so I shared this in my live videos when I was doing my daily lives. I shared a little bit of it, but not the whole story, and definitely not the whole thing, because just like the other story that I talked about, where it takes years sometimes to completely unfold, where you see everything that's happening, this also took quite a time for me to see everything. And so you can see how trauma sometimes, like soul fragments that you lose. And I already know. So this is what I did again. I chose a song that I loved and I created a station with it, right? So I love that Lisa pays attention to details when she watches me and listens to me. And she said it was so hilarious because I could tell, like, you were at first like amused, like, oh my God, the music is so dramatic. And she said, but to me, like, my excitement for you sharing those things and then the music like building, she said it was amazing. It was like a soundtrack. So I'm gonna let it play and get dramatic, but I already know, like, oh my God, like the music's gonna get wild. So I just said, okay, universe, you're the DJ. And I chose the start song that I really liked. And I just said, create station. So it comes through Apple Music, but honestly, the universe and I have a divine connection. I'm connected to everything, attached to nothing, right? And so my post today, I really like reiterated that when you get to a certain level of awareness, you start to realize everything is you. And so I have, even on long car trips, like spoke into the ether, okay, give me a playlist for so-and-so. And meaning like my relationship with that person. And the playlist is like mind-blowing. It's literally like giving to me my relationship with that person in a playlist. And music is one of my love languages. So I'm like, okay, universe, thank you for that. And the people in my life that understand that music is a love language are constantly sharing music with me too. And I love that. And so anyhow, the story that I'm going to tell today is about RavenSpirit and Big Sur. And so I was staying actually in Salinas, and I stayed with my beautiful soul sister, Diana. And so Diana was able to witness all of this while it was happening there, but it would unfold in bits. So that's also what I want to tell people, like, when you are truly connected, other energies, like I said, there's no such thing as an inanimate object. So I am actually in an energetic exchange with the aloes wood, with the candles, with the speaker, with everything that's in my space. I am so deeply connected with all of it. And yay, Seisha. So when you are connected to everything, sometimes it takes a little bit for other energies to reveal themselves. That's why I say, like, a plant medicine ceremony, which is now being so completely abused. But these things are tools of the spiritual path. It is not like being awakened is not a destination. It's the journey. Like, I am awakening. I am a highly awakened woman, but I am still actually evolving even higher. Like, what is the end point? We don't know. Transcending these bodies, right? And I am on my way to that. But nobody is woke as fuck, because that would be like naming it a destination. It's not a fucking destination. Like, no, you're not woke. You are awake, and you are awakening spiritually. You're awake, like your ass ain't asleep, but no, you're not woke as fuck. Like, that's ridiculous. And so anyway, so stories, timelines, dimensional things, because time is not even real, may take time in the human experience to unfold and reveal itself in completion. This is also what I shared with the karmic ties. Like, things have to be seen to completion to reveal themselves, right? And so we were heading from Salinas to, I can't remember the name of the little town, to go visit. No, we were going to the beach the first time, and it was on a Tuesday. It was Tuesday, and we were headed to the beach to go hiking. And so she said, I'm going to take this back road, and the back road is called Crazy Horse. And she said the other way is going to have a lot of traffic because the weather's nice, it's summer. And I said, okay. I was just along for the ride. It's nice because normally when I'm traveling, I love traveling by road trip. I love driving long drives. I love it. But I love even more being the passenger because I get to see all the scenery. I actually get to look out the window and see everything. When I'm the one driving, it takes me forever. Like, to go from Arizona to Washington State, I took 3 days to do that because I stop a lot. I'm like the I break for photo ops kind of girl. Like, if I see shit, I will stop and smell the roses. I will stop and watch the sheep. I will stop and watch the murder of crows. I will stop and like connect with all of it, because that's the magic of being human, right? the magic of being human isn't like making money and having nice cars. It's about connecting. It's about integrating your spirit into your human and feeling the amazing connection of the divine through the earth suit. It's amazing. So anyhow, I got to be the passenger. So we're riding on this road. Here is the music. We're riding on the road. Yes. Anyhow, it's tripping me out. This is called Zamin. So anyhow, we're riding on Crazy Horse, and I was looking at the farms going by, and I will post these pictures, by the way, after the story, so you can see all of it, because I took pictures of all of it. But anyhow, I right away heard Spirit say, go to the back paddock. And I said, Diana. And so I love that Diana never judges me. So when I say Spirit told me, she's like, oh. So I said, hey, Spirit just told me to go to the back paddock. And she's like, what's that? And I said, I don't know, I'm Googling it. So honest to God, I love, love, love when Spirit gives me a word I've never heard. Like, I love that shit. And the reason why I love that shit is because it proves to me without a doubt this is not coming from Sherry's memory somewhere, from something she read or some experience she had or the ego or anything like that. Like, it's pure Spirit when it gives you something like that, right? So it said, go to the back paddock. And when she said, what is that? And I said, I don't know. I'm Googling it. Literally, I screenshot it in that moment. So I actually have the screenshot when I looked it up. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like a back enclosure, a fenced in enclosure to like exercise horses. And we were actually driving past a ranch. And so I read it and she's like, whoa, we should go there. And I love that. So if you don't have you a friend that like honors every fucking thing you say, you better get you one. Anyway, it's called alignment, y'all. It happens. So she like pulled over and I had taken a picture. So when we were driving by and I took the picture, that's when I heard it, go to the back paddock. So I actually had a picture of this white gate. It looked pretty because it was like a farm, whatever. And so she pulled over and we were looking at it and I was like, yeah, that's what I was looking at when it said it, because she turned back around and I was like, I took a picture of this white gate and that's when it said it. So she turned the car around, we went back there, we got out and we stood there and she's like, let's see if we can get to it. And I was like, okay. So we like backtracked and there was a drive, like a dirt drive, stone drive. And it ended up being like a private ranch, private property. The gate was closed and locked. And we were like, oh, and she goes, well, let's see if they'll let us in. And I was like, nah, fuck it. Let's go to the beach. Because we were already on our way to the beach. And I was like, nah, it's all good. So we go to the beach, had an amazing day, okay? And so I don't know if that's the day we went to, I should have looked it up before the story, but we went to Piper Beach, okay? And if none of y'all have ever been to Piper Beach, on Big Sur, it's amazing. Like the sand on this beach is like photosensitive and it's purple. It's like lavender. But if you mush the sand, it goes back to tan. But as soon as the sun starts to warm it, it turns lavender again. It's so fucking magic. But anyway, we parked, we walked onto the beach and I right away started feeling like nauseous. And I was like, I just want to sit, let's rest. So I sat and literally, boom, fell asleep because we sat on the lavender sand. There was beautiful flowers and it went up this steep hill. And I laid down, literally passed out, went to sleep. And so she kind of laid next to me. And so I don't know if she slept or not, and she's not on the live. Diana may have slept. I'm not going to say she did or didn't, She may have slept, but she did get a picture of me sleeping. So she didn't sleep as long as I slept, or she may have been thinking like, God damn, she really is asleep. Took a picture and then slept. I don't know. But anyway, when I got up, we snacked because we had fresh strawberries and everything. We snacked. And when I was sitting there, I was just kind of like mushing the sand. I put it in my hand. It was tan. And then when I let it sit in my hand, it turned purple. It was beautiful. And she said, oh my gosh, there's a man behind you, a native man on a horse. And I go, what? She goes, yeah, the horse is running on the hill, but he's right behind you. And he just went, he took off on the horse. And I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. And I was still kind of like groggy, whatever. We walked the beach. It was freezing, y'all, but it was beautiful. And it has these amazing stone structures with like these windows, and the waves are crashing through these windows. It was just magic. So I'll share those pictures too. But anyway, so we walked the beach, and we spent every day somewhere different. It was beautiful. She really like took me around and showed me. And her and I both don't like touristy places, and that's also alignment, y'all. Like, get you a friend that likes to do the things you like to do. So we hiked, we did beautiful things, and it was Friday. So fast forward to Friday, from Tuesday to Friday, and we were going to her brother's house because her sister-in-law was pregnant, and we were going to visit them. And she said, I'm going to take that same road that we took the other day, the Crazy Horse Road. And I was like, okay. And that is San Luis Baptista. Oh my gosh. I should have looked all this up. I will post that as well. Anyhow, we're riding by that same piece of road, and I kind of looked up this time instead of at the ranch. And when you look up the straight hill, it was a really steep hill, there was like this line. So I didn't know if it was a road, if it was a path, or what, but then Spirit right away said, come up here. And so I looked at her and I said, Obispo. No, but it wasn't Obispo. I think there's two of them. There's San Luis Obispo, and then there's San Luis Baptista, and it's the Baptista one, I believe. That runs from Salinas to the beach. And they're like the Crusaders came through that place and set up forts and all of that. Anyhow, I told her, I said, Spirit just told me to come up here. There's like a path up there. And so she right away pulled over, and she goes, I literally just added to my phone this morning this app that will show you hiking trails, the nearest hiking trails to wherever you're at. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So she pulled over, pulled it up, and she's like, oh my God, there is a trail. And she's like, okay, putting it in GPS, puts it in her GPS. And the last time that we went, yeah, thank you, Amanda. And so the last time we had backtracked and went back up the road, and it was a private ranch. This time, it actually wanted us to drive forward, and we had to drive past the ranch and turn onto this dirt road, go down a ways and onto another dirt road, and then park and then still walk a ways. So we did that. And I used the porta potty. Anyhow, that's all part of the story, y'all. Like, I am in a human earth suit. Anyhow, we're walking on this trail to go to find the hiking trail. And I just happened to look and I go, holy shit, Diana. And she's like, what? And I said, this is the back paddock. This is the white gate I literally took a picture of Tuesday. And she's like, holy shit, it is. So I said, take my picture. So I climbed up on the gate and she took a picture of me on the gate. And then we kept walking. So we walked, and I right away said, I've been here. I've been here before. So when you travel somewhere, this is a phenomena that's been reported many times, past life. So I have never been there. I have never, ever, ever been there. Have I been to California before? Yes. Have I been to San Luis Bautista? Never. Have I been through Salinas? Yes. Have I been on the Crazy Horse Road? Never. As Sherry, okay? Have I been to Big Sur? Never. Have I driven by? Yes, on the one. Heading up to Washington State. I drove the one as far as I could. So I have driven past it, never stopped. Never, ever, ever stopped. Anyhow, and never had these transmissions, these spirit transmissions. So obviously this was very important, and I knew I had been right in that spot before. I said I've been here before. And so it has been reported that this phenomena, like you could go maybe to like Venice, right? Say you go to Venice, Italy, and you've had a life there, and all of a sudden know your way through the streets. Like this familiarity just starts waking this cell memory in your spirit, and you can just go places and understand it. Sometimes even speak the language. And that actually, y'all, is what the true speaking tongues is. The speaking in tongues is not the gibberish that you have seen in videos where people are acting a plumb fool and like gyrating their bodies and like wagging their tongues. That is not speaking in tongues. The true and divine, sacred speaking in tongues is being able to go somewhere and speak the language that is understood by the natives there. And you have no earthly knowledge of how to communicate with those people. That is the true and divine, sacred speaking in tongues. Okay? So, anyhow, we continue walking, and I just start crying. Now, I've talked about this before, like karmic tears. You have no tear ducts in the outside of your eyes. So if you cry from the outside of your eyes, you are burning karma. If you cry from the inside of your eyes, you are processing emotion. Both are good. Both are amazing. Both are good. Yay, Hercules, Hercules. But in this particular moment, I was crying karmic tears, and I didn't know why I was crying, but I was crying really hard. And I looked at Diana and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what this is. And she's like, no, it's okay. So sweet, because someone else may have lost their shit or felt uncomfortable, and she did not. And I also love that about Diana. So anyhow, I'm like crying and walking and feeling that like I'm burning karma. And I said, there's a tree that I have to see. I have to go to a very specific tree. It's the black tree. And so when we went around the corner, so I knew that the path that we were walking on was not the original path. And I even told her that. I said, this is not the original path. So what had happened is that they had taken bulldozers through there and made it big enough so cars could actually drive on it. But if you look on the side of where cars can drive, there was a thin little line of very tall grass and a path, probably maybe 6 inches, 8 inches. And that was a footpath. That was the original. And my spirit knew it. I said, this is the original path. And thank you, Amanda. And so we kept walking, and around this big bend, I saw the tree. I said, that's the tree. And I was like, how are we going to get up there? And she was actually ahead of me on the path. And she goes, well, the path. And I was like, what path? And she said, stand where I'm at. So I went up and stood next to her, and I looked. Literally, the way the sun hit it, you could see it perfectly. It was this zigzag path, because it was, I would say, easy, an 80-degree angle. It was like really steep, and but it was a zigzag. So literally like foot over foot that zigzagged right up to that tree, and the tree was jutting right out of the hill. Maybe 70-degree, but it was really steep. And Sherry wouldn't have tried. I was wearing flip-flops. Sherry would not have tried to climb that because I would have eaten dirt. But anyway, but when I saw that path, I was like, oh, we can do this. It literally looked like it was purposely carved in the side of the hill. So we're both like foot over foot, like going up slowly right to the black tree, the tree that I needed. And I said, I feel like there's something carved in the tree. There's something written in the tree that I need to see. And the tree was old. And so then I started to realize, no, this tree grew a lot. So whatever I wrote is probably up there, but I just took as many pictures as I could up the side of the tree. And then I said, can we sit here? She's like, yeah. And I said, that path was mine, I know it. And I said, I feel that. And as soon as I sat down, my feet were literally like in front of me, pointing down like this. But as soon as I leaned back with my back against the trunk, I started getting all of these downloads from the tree. And this is beautiful, beautiful, because trees are ancient beings. And trees have this intricate web of communication that goes deep in Gaia. And immediately the tree started showing me all the trees I had made offerings to. And I'm talking from New York to Washington State. And I was like, holy shit. It was powerful. And I could feel this emotion like moving through me so powerfully. And I just sat there with my eyes closed, like feeling all of this energy and like feeling these waves of gratitude, like the tree. Okay. So, I was told once by a mentor years ago, the trees don't talk to everyone. They're very selective. And so I'm not saying I'm special. I'm saying the tree decided in that moment that I deserved, or that I was now available, receptive, able to receive this guidance and these beautiful transmissions from a tree. And and I do feel that that's something that I've had in past lives, and I have connected with very specific trees on my property, and I always make offerings to trees. I can feel their emotion, but as far as like them engaging with me in that way, whoa. So anyway, I'm just allowing, and that's so important. That's that feminine energy, right? I'm receiving, I'm allowing, I'm not judging, I'm not second guessing, I'm not doubting, I'm just receiving and feeling the gratitude and connecting with this tree. And the tree is showing me all these different things, and then right away, very loud, said, call back the soul fragments from this timeline. And I right away knew it was the life that I had lived there, and that I lived on the farm at the bottom of the hill. And right away I got my name. My name was Mellie. And I knew I was a teen. I knew, like not quite, I was a young woman, but not quite like grown woman. I don't think I was in my 20s. It really felt like 17, 18, 19, late teens. I really felt that connection. And right away, the tree just started showing me things, and I'm calling back these soul fragments, asking them to be purified and returned to my spirit, like calling back all of these soul fragments and just crying. Like the tears were just streaming down my face. And I was like, something bad happened to me here. But before I realized that something bad had happened, I felt the intimacy that had taken place by that tree. And right away knew I had a very deep love that would meet me at the tree. And I could feel it like waves of sensual energy moving through my body. And I put my left hand down and right away cupped this stone and knew I used to leave things under this stone. So I picked up the stone, and it was like a turtle shell. It was flat on one side and had that hump, but literally the perfect shape of my palm. I picked it up, and I right away was like digging in the dirt because I was like, there's got to be something here. I used to leave things under this stone, and did not find anything. But I took the crystal that I had in my bra and left it there as an offering and put the stone back, and made an offering to that tree. And then I told Diana, there's another tree that I have to see. And she right away started feeling the emotion. She's like, there's a man. And I said, yes, there was a man here. And I said, we used to meet here, and I believe I lost my virginity here. Like, I started sharing with her like all the things I was feeling. And I said, we were very in love, but young, like very young. He was slightly older than me, but very, very much in love. And I feel like there was a reason that we couldn't meet outside of this space. There was a reason we had to meet in secret, but I would leave him things under this stone, and I showed her the stone. And so I said, but there's another tree up the path that I have to see. And so we went back down the little tow path, zigzagging down foot over foot, and this very steep, narrow path went down. So we go, and as soon as we get on the path, I right away was going like this, and I said, I used to do this. I used to do this on that little path, that little edge, because it literally felt like I was flying. Look how high it is and how steep this is. It literally feels like we're flying way up here. And she said, I, honest to God, had that same feeling, like I wanted to spread my arms and pretend like I was flying. So she was like simultaneously like validating all these transmissions that I was still getting on this path. So I go, and I was like, that's the tree. And I saw this tree growing out of the side of the hill, jutting over the valley. And as soon as we got up to the tree, I put my hand on the side of the tree, because the trunk was going out like that, but there was a big old bough that was coming close to the path, and I touched it. And I said, it would be really irresponsible to put a swing here. And she goes, yeah. And I said, but I literally had the sensation of flying out over the valley, like over this. And I was like, whoa, like almost feeling dizzy. And I said, that hole, we used to leave, he would leave me flowers in that hole. So I was afraid to stick my finger in there because spiders. But I got a stick. I picked up a stick and I stuck it in the hole, and it literally was able to go all the way in. And so I looked and I picked up a flower and I put it in there, and I said he would leave me flowers that had to be either really fragrant or really colorful, but they weren't from this valley. He would bring me flowers from somewhere else. I said, kind of like that beach, because the succulents that grow on the side of the purple beach, the Pfeiffer beach, they had this sweet, sweet smell to them. And I even mentioned that as soon as we walked on. I said, do you smell that? It's almost like honeysuckle. It smells so sweet. And I've never smelled succulent flowers smell that fragrant. It was like, it's magical. But anyhow, but I said that to her, like those flowers. And so at that moment, I didn't feel everything that had happened there. With that tree, I knew I had to see the tree, but in that moment I was just like, oh, it's because he would leave me flowers. That's the significance of the tree, right? That's what's important. And so we decided not to keep hiking because we had to go meet her brother. So we saw that tree, we came, we saw, we left, right? And so we went back to the car, left, and I told her, I said, I'm going to meditate tonight and see what more I get from Mellie. And I hadn't gotten anything more. So I knew there was something traumatic. So when we have like psychic blocks to information, they will be unlocked when you are ready to process. Oh, here's Barry right now. That's who we were going to visit. I'm sharing the story about when I went up to Big Sur with Diana and came to visit. So anyhow, we went to go visit, and that night when I meditated, I didn't get any information. But when you have like deep trauma, it will be unlocked when you're ready to actually process that. So, and that's all, like, it's not on your time, it's on divine timing. Because honestly, like Sherry, if spirit would just give me everything right now, I'd be good. I'd be like, it may kill me, but just give it to me. Like, I want to be able to process all of it now. Let's get this done, right? But spirit's not going to do that. Spirit's like, no, it's got to unfold on my time. And so, like, patience and presence is important. Hello. So letting it unfold at its own time. So I was actually back home after that trip when the rest of that story unfolded. I was at my altar, and I don't even believe I was even asking for it. I had just finished feeding Salome, and I sat down at the altar, and right away I got the transmission that my lover from that life, from Mellie, his name was RavenSpirit, and his white name was Thomas. Now, this was a man whose mother was white and father was native. And so I really believe, I'm feeling that it's the early 1900s, and I was a teen. I knew I grew up on that farm, and right away it just started coming back. And Spirit actually told me to call Salome by his name. Call Salome by his name. So even more so, I believe, like, Salome is not a bird. Salome is a shapeshifter, and possibly even RavenSpirit coming as, instead of a raven. And what's interesting is that Happy Bear, when he was telling me he built an altar for me to call in my divine partner, he said, can you do me a favor? And I never told him about Salome, by the way. He said, do me a favor and put your white raven feathers on your altar. And I was like, white raven? I don't have white raven feathers. And he's like, what's that white bird? And I said, I'm not even sure I know what he is, because he's twice the size of a pigeon, and true white pigeons have red eyes. His eyes are black, but he communicates more with doves than he does the pigeons. Like, he talks with them. He talks with the doves. Like, he'll literally waddle up to a dove and talk to a dove, but not, and it ignores the pigeons. And the doves, he's twice the size of a pigeon, literally like 4 times the size of the doves that are here. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I was listening to Spirit, doing that. And so it was interesting that he even said the white raven feathers, and I'm like, huh? But Spirit told me to call him by the name RavenSpirit, and I was like, that's interesting. And it was then that I started having the conversations with Salome, like, are you a man? Just do it. If you're a man, just like do that thing, dude. But anyway, so I was getting those transmissions But then it was completely shown to me that that tree, that I felt that swinging sensation, that my father had hung me from that tree. And I saw that. So the walk was actually up that same path, that same hill where I started crying, and it all made sense. It was my father, my brother, and myself as Mellie. We didn't speak not a single word. And I was completely dressed. I knew I was pregnant. Not very big. Like I said, I was in my late teens, young woman. So my belly, I knew I was pregnant, but it wasn't like ready to bust. But I was pregnant, and he was walking me up to the tree. I knew he was walking me there to kill me. I was so resolved with acceptance. I wasn't even crying. And so that just speaks highly to the emotional abuse of that life for Mellie to not even be crying, to be like so stoic, because I could feel that, the silence, but also like this rage just moving through my body, like wanting to scream, but knew I couldn't run. He actually had my hands bound behind my back and was walking me. My brother is the one that had the rope. And so when we got to the tree, my brother had actually climbed out the tree, tied the rope to the limb, and threw the rope back to my father. And I looked at my father, and I remember thinking, I can't believe he's doing this on my birthday. And then right away I heard March 7th. So March 7th, that was my birthday, and I was being hung on my birthday, pregnant. So I knew that I was pregnant with RavenSpirit's baby, Thomas's baby, and he put the rope around my neck and just pushed me. And so, of course, I didn't leave. I didn't cross over right away. I stayed with my body. And so I actually got to see all of that play out, the soul memory of that, watching Thomas, RavenSpirit, return to the tree and seeing my body. And it was very emotional for me. So if you go back to the lives, when I returned and had that transmission, it was still so raw. I shared it the day that I got that transmission. And literally sharing it, I was crying because I could still feel all of that moving through my spirit, my body, all of it. But I watched him like so enraged, but you know that like angry cry where you're so angry, but just like crying and like you want to fuck the world up. I was watching him, but he was so delicate with my body, even though I was already gone. He was so delicate with my body, untying the rope and like struggling to get me and himself off of the tree to get me back, and wrapped my body, put me on the back of his horse, and rode for a really long ways. I wanted to look that up too. From that space, the it's San Juan Bautista. San Juan Bautista, the crazy horse, rode all the way to Piper Beach, because that's where he took me. And I was like, oh my God, it's the Purple Beach. Like I recognized it right away, but he was coming down that steep hill instead of the road that they built to come down through the bottom, because now you enter the beach through the bottom side of the beach. But he was coming down the hill, like literally I could see it, my body on the back of the horse, and how the horse was like digging its hooves in, going down the steep hill. And he put my body in the sea. And it was in that moment I crossed over, and he said some prayers and released me. I looked up to see what the native language was there, and there was 3 different tribes and languages that were spoke in that one area, because I wanted to be able to at least say his name in the native language. So it's beautiful. Anyhow, I right away wanted to tell Diana. So I shared it with her, and she said, "Don't you remember?" And I was like, "What?" And she said, "When we went to Piper Beach and you fell asleep, when you woke up," and I had completely forgot about that she said that there was a man behind me on a horse. I had completely forgot about that, and I was mind blown. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. So that's cool, because there is a validation of that, but that I also was able to see the beach from that really steep point of view, and then my body being put into the sea. And the most powerful thing about that is, and that was beautiful, okay? Also to see the deep racism, judgment, that a man would kill his own daughter because she loved someone that was not acceptable to him, but also that she was carrying the baby of someone that was unacceptable to him. I also knew in that moment that my unborn child is my son now. So that now marks a total of 2 past lives that I know for sure that he was killed in the womb. One other time I was burned. And so what's interesting is that if you ask a very small child just before they fall asleep, or when they're just wakening, when they're in that lucid, groggy state, they are still so connected to spirit. If you ask them all these beautiful spiritual questions, what I used to ask my kids is, where were you before you chose me to be your mommy? Because we choose our parents, they don't choose us. So my children hand selected me. What an honor. So they are not mine. They came through me, but they are not mine. But my son used to sound like a little old man when he was little. He would just, his response was always the same. He would say, waiting and waiting and waiting. So I believe I did not have children for such a long time, and he was ready to come back. He was really waiting for that opportunity for me to be his mother. He has been my guide in a past life, so he does have a hard time simulating as my son, which I've shared before, but he is an old soul, and he was waiting specifically for me to be his mother. That was my most recent past life before Sherry. And I told Diana, I said, we have to go back. We have to go back to that farm, because that specific story, those are not stories that are shared in the news or newspapers. Those are like the twisted tales that survive on farms, right? Because farms are always passed through bloodlines, through family. So if I do a knock and talk at that farm, they're probably related to my dad that hung me. So if I said there is a woman named Mellie that lived here and was hung in the tree up there, I have this story. I wouldn't open like that. Hey, there was someone hung in the tree. They'd be like, what the fuck, crazy lady, get the fuck out of here. But the way that you share stories like that, just say, look, I have some information about this land and I was really drawn to it driving by. Would it be okay if I shared, or if I asked you some questions about the property? And they would share, because those are the twisted tales that survive, right? Like the the old tales that they sit around the fire and they're like, yeah, Grandpappy Joe, he actually hung his daughter from the tree up there. So I really wanted to do that because I believe that's exactly what I would end up finding out, that it would all be validated through that. But I do also feel that RavenSpirit, Thomas, went back and wrecked shit. I don't feel that he killed anyone. I feel like he did a lot of damage on the farm to show his disapproval, and then took off, had to actually get away and hide so that he would not be killed. I do not believe they ever found him or killed him, but those are the types of stories that survive. So I know for sure, if I do a knock on talk on that farm, that I'll probably get some bits of that. So there's more to it. So I know I have shared before that my mother had a really hard time nurturing me, had a really hard time being loving to me, and I got to witness her be affectionate and loving with all my siblings. And I've come to a place of acceptance, but what's interesting is that as many regressions that I've done in sessions, as many shamanic journeys that I've done, I always tell my clients, look in their eyes. Do you know them in this life? And I've never done that for myself, because usually when I meet someone, I know, like, okay, you were this in a past life. And but trauma, remember I told you trauma can actually create psychic blocks. So I had never done that. And so one morning in my morning meditation, I was like processing some inner child stuff, and Spirit right away showed me my father, and right away said, did you ever look in his eyes? And right away I knew what Spirit was directing me to do. Look in his eyes. Who is he in this life? And I was like, holy shit. This father that literally hung me from a tree, and my brother who helped him, are my mother and younger sister, who hates me, by the way. She thinks I'm a demon. So she's a born-again Christian, and even though we grew up together and I'm older than her and I've always been psychic, always been this, she thinks I'm demonic. So she didn't always think I was demonic, but she thinks I'm demonic now. Like literally she said it. So anyhow, so I was like, oh my God. So this is the karmic connection to my mother, my sister, is the connection to the father that had hung me and the brother who helped him hang me. And so there's this deep loathing that is soul deep, that's not even in this life for them. And so, and they're not conscious women, they're not connected women. So where is that energy for them? They're definitely not healing that karma. They're definitely not seeing rectifying those soul contracts, or redeeming themselves, or getting the retribution of that. And so that is no longer my mind to bear. But what's interesting is because I chose her again as a parent, and it's interesting. She is a very masculine energy woman. She's not, she wasn't motherly with me, but she was in her complete masculine energy with me. And like looking back now, it makes so much sense. All of it makes so much sense. It also makes sense that I've never been interested in white males, ever. and not even share like a dinner or a meal with, and you know, there is a fact, like the sauce, there is a lacking of this very specific spice, sauce, ingredient that that creates this spicy chemistry. But like all of those things, those are karmic strands that have continued from that life to this. And what's interesting, if you've ever seen like love cards, right, which is another process, another tool for you to really get to know what your path and purpose is, understand why you chose a very specific birthday. And so March 7th, which was Mellie's birthday, is a 3 of spades, and she was a Pisces. But Sherry is May 3rd, which is also a 3 of spades. So it's just interesting to have that same like life path actually, but being able to do that. I'm definitely not killed by my mother, maybe not nurtured or loved the way a mother should have nurtured and loved a daughter. And so it's interesting. I never tell anyone like, you know, your mother loved you the best she could, or father, because their experience is through the lens of their experience. And I know for a fact that my mother did not love me the best she could, because I watched her give her best to my siblings, not to me. And so that's part of my healing journey. And remember, as long as you are in an earth suit, you are still healing. But every relationship that you create is a soul contract. Not all of them are karmic. What adds that karmic detail to a relationship is loose ends, is an energy that has not been seen to completion. So when there's a traumatic death, when there is transgressions that have been committed, like betrayal, and like that's a deep betrayal. Your own father hanging you, that's a very deep betrayal. So of course that's karmic. And so obviously why I chose that experience. But I wanted to share that to show you that sometimes these things take a while to unravel, because trauma can cause psychic blocks, informational blocks to that energy, because it has to be revealed when first of all, when you're ready to process it. Second of all, when you're ready for the growth. And the universe will never give you more than you can handle. And I was admittedly going through a lot of spiritual growth at that time. So if it had given me that too, right? So processing that. And so these things I probably won't ever be able to share with my mother. She supposedly has dementia now, and so it's unfortunate. So I can connect with her higher self, which would be better anyway. Her higher self's much kinder. But anyway, so that's the story. That's the story of RavenSpirit and Big Sur, Pfeiffer Beach, lavender sand and fragrant flowers. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Soul contracts, karmic ties, any of that kind of energy, past life regressions, past life memories, psychic blocks, trauma, any of that? No. Everyone's asleep because I know my voice lulls you all. Azalea, beautiful princess, what is a soul contract? A soul contract is an energetic agreement between you and another person. Every relationship is a soul contract. You with your mother, you with me. This is a soul contract. What you and I share, all soul contracts. Intimate relationships, familial relationships, even work relationships, acquaintance relationships, anything of significance is a soul contract. So even if you meet someone, say you're in the checkout line and all of a sudden you have a connection with a complete stranger, but it was profound, that's a soul contract. So I'll give you an example. I was extremely depressed and still in hiding. I was seeing my own patients and in medicine. Both of my children were really small. And so when I would go to the grocery store, it was like fucking vacation for me. And so I would go alone. And when I was in the supermarket, I literally was thinking, like, I knew I would never kill myself, ever, 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 because suicide, you come right back, y'all. You don't get to make any decisions about what you'll be doing. It's literally the same motherfucking blueprint again. So you could be really close to the apex of like passing a difficult bit in your life, and you're gonna have to go back to start. It's literally like playing Monopoly for like 3 hours, and then somebody saying, we're gonna take all your shit, go back to start, do not collect $200, but we're gonna take all your property, all your shit, and we still get to keep all of our shit. Literally, that's what that's like. So I knew I would never do that. But like, I knew that if I saw a car that didn't see me, I probably wouldn't run out of the way. Does that make sense? So anyhow, I was in the grocery store and I was kind of literally in that mindset. I was in a lot of like emotional pain, and I was in this aisle and it was just me and this other gentleman. He got out of his little riding wheelchair and fell and hit his head on the shelf. And I actually posted this, like a thank you to him, on my timeline on Facebook. This is how long ago, but it was way more than a decade ago, because it's before I even got divorced. So anyhow, I ran over because I'm a medical practitioner, and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? So anyhow, I like helped him up, got him to sit back down, and I was like, are you okay? And I was like, look at me. I'm like following his pupils, like checking him to make sure his pupils are dilating properly, all of that, checking, getting him to talk to me. Hey, what's your name? Do you know what day it is? Like all of these things. And I was like, how old are you? And he's like, it's really hard being old. Like, he didn't tell me how old he was. And I was like, really? How old are you? And he was past 80. I can't really remember his exact age. And I said, do you know how many people who are your age and like aren't coming to the grocery store? Today is a good day. And he looked at me, he just started crying, and I felt I could feel all of his angst, because, or fuck, maybe he was feeling mine, I don't know. Now that I look back, I'm like, shit, poor dude. Like, but he was bleeding, his glasses had hit his brow. So I got a tissue out of my purse and I was just like cleaning him up and just talking to him, and I touched his face and I was like, you are such a beautiful spirit. And he's like, you really are an angel. And I was like, no. And I said, but are you here with someone? And he's like, my wife is in the car. And so someone else had run over because they saw me help him. And I said, can you go find his wife in the parking lot? She's in the car. And so I asked him, what else do you need to get on your shopping list? And he's like, well, my list is in the basket. And I said, okay, so do you have a preference for like brands or anything like that? Because I usually go for like the highest quality. He's like, no, you can do it. So, hey Jaden, Miss Steal Your Man. So anyhow, I ran and got his groceries for him and finished his list. I saw what he had in his little cart and saw what he needed to still get. And I went and got the rest of his groceries. And, but he saved me in that day. He saved me. It brought me back. So I know, like, that's a soul contract, Azalea. Like, I made an agreement with this beautiful soul to have that experience, and he sacrificed himself to fall, and he was so embarrassed, and I helped him too. So we made that agreement to help each other out of like whatever darkness both of us were in, because he's like, I hate being old, look. And I was like, are you kidding me? There's people your age that can't even get out of bed, and here you are shopping. Like, are you serious right now? And then for him to call me an angel so that I felt like I had purpose, because it's really exhausting and painful to be in hiding and to not be surrounded by people who support that. So that's the energy that we both saved each other from. Amanda says, I had never heard the whole story of Mellie and the tree. Thank you again, and I love you. Oh, thank you. I love you. And it's crazy. Yeah, I've never shared the whole story publicly. Diana knows the whole story. But yeah, I'm surprised I didn't even share in meditation class. But so yeah, that is a soul contract. Did that make sense, Azalea? So it's not the same as a karmic contract. A soul contract is a significant coming together of souls. And it can be brief or it can be a while. Soul karmic connections and contracts have to be seen to completion. So there's something very specific that has to be resolved. That. Did I answer it? So the karmic contract is very specific energy that has not been seen to completion. So for instance, and I was going to share probably in another story time, but there is a particular male that has come into my life who I've shared more than 30 past lives with. And every single life, he's had to lose me. I've died early. So he has lost me every time we've been together. And so our souls are still in this deep angst of love and loss. And it's very traumatic. And some by murder, once by suicide, because I believed that he was actually having an affair, but the woman lied to me, and I didn't realize that till after I took the hemlock. By the way, I didn't know what hemlock was. Spirit showed me that in Sweat Lodge. And by the way, in Sweat Lodge, there is no plant medicine involved. None of these things have occurred during any kind of self-avoidance or any kind of substance, mind-altering substance. Like, this is just direct connection with spirit. So I have had more past lives with this particular person than anyone else. And I love him deeply, but his human does not love my human. And so ego makes things ugly. But to see that to completion, I don't know, I've had to lose him, basically, and I lost him already. So maybe that's the completion, right? That I've had to lose him now. That he came into my life like this beautiful, chaotic storm, and I had to lose him. But that's a karmic contract. The karmic contract has a very specific energy that has to be seen to completion. So like when I shared the post the other day, when I said, what is karma? Karma is not good or bad. It's needing to tie up an energetic connection, because everything is energy. Did that make sense, Azalea? Amanda says, wow. Amanda says, do you feel like your relationship with your mom and sister are karmic contracts? Most absolutely. And they're both still perpetuating that same loathing and energy, which is very sad. They should have cleared it up. Literally, that's why there would be a karmic contract. So what's beautiful is that class that I took with Matt Kahn, and I love Matt Kahn. He had a soul contracts class just recently, and I took it. And I love what he said, because when I feel that there is a karmic connection, I tend to stay past the expiration date, because I'm like, what am I getting? What am I supposed to be getting? Is it complete? It was hard, especially with that one gentleman, because I love him. So like tying up those loose ends, like with my mom and my sister, what he had said is any soul contract, any karmic soul contract, once a transgression has occurred by way of lies, betrayal, abuse, neglect, any of those energies, in that moment, in the moment that transgression occurs, that contract is null and void. Null and void. So you can actually speak that into existence, right? So like for my mom, as a very little girl, when I used to crawl into bed with her because I could feel spirits all around my bed in the middle of the night, and she acted like I wasn't there, but I could feel her awake, and I'm there spooning her, my little body pressed against her back. And how painful that is, even now as I share it with you all, like how painful that was for me to crawl into bed with my own mother. And it became more painful when I had children, because I would never dream in a million fucking years of doing that to one of my kids. When your kids come to you in the middle of the night, how do you not turn to them and say, what's going on, baby? And then grab them close to your heart and just hold them. Smooth their hair, kiss their forehead, talk to them, sing to them. And she would literally lay there stiff. And then what seemed like only seconds, right? I don't know how long it would be, but it seemed such a short time. And she would say, okay, it's time for you to go back to your own bed. So I learned to sleep under my bed. And so in that moment, that soul contract was null and motherfucking void. Instead of me re-traumatizing myself looking for my mother to love me. But I learned in that moment, and my mother's the one that reminded me of this. Like, how does that not even amplify and magnify what a piece of shit you were as a mother? But I would tuck in one side of my blankets and sheets. Little girl, okay? Tuck in one whole side of the sheets and then roll off my bed. And it became like a hammock. And I was like a little burrito laying under my bed. But that's how I used to sleep. So, no, Azalea, I won't, because I'm not coming back. This is my last life, and I've known that since I was a little girl. So I won't meet them again. I do know that I will be choosing to reside on a higher plane. So I will be accessible as a guide, as support, as ascended support. So I know I will be doing that. So who knows? Maybe they'll kneel and pray for me. Amanda says, yes, I felt that. Thank you for validating that. And yes, I feel that, beautiful sister, right? So even as mothers, right, we feel that, like, how could you do that? You wouldn't even do it to somebody you love, right? Like, I wouldn't even do it to a partner. If he woke up in the middle of the night having like a bad dream or anything, I would right away be like smoothing his chest, laying my head on his heart, like, you okay? Like, who doesn't, what kind of fucking... And here I am twirling my hair. I just realized, wow. So, this is something that I used to do as a little girl when I would feel uncomfortable. So it's interesting. I just caught myself doing that, literally observed myself outside of myself. Okay, so Azalea says, why do we choose our mothers? How and for what reason? So why do we? Always for a specific lesson, even if it's not karmic. So ask yourself, what are you learning from your mother energetically, or what are you here to teach her? Like, if it's karmic, you're coming back in. Like, I'm coming back in with my mother. I chose her probably to see if she could love me as a woman, because she didn't love me as my father. Could she love me as a woman? No. So, but it's always something very specific. So what is the most phenomenal energy that you share with your mother? Because remember, everything is an energy exchange. Sometimes it's to have like trauma and abuse. And yes, we choose that. It's crazy, I know. Does that make sense, Azalea? I love that you're asking questions. This is why I do what I do. It fills me with gratitude. Yes, good. Any other questions? Oh, whoever gave me that heart to you too. Okay, so siblings, not always, okay? I do believe that if there is karma, we can choose to come back with them. So, for instance, my younger sister was my brother. So, obviously, we both made that choice. So, here's the thing. When you come in to the human experience, it seems like a really long time, right? But time is not real. But in the human experience, time is long. But in spirit, literally, and this is why it's so easy for me to like jump timelines too. In spirit, it's like this. So like if you watched the live where I talked about the skinwalker, literally I spent 6 hours with him, but it felt like 20 minutes. It's like this. So like the human experience is like sitting out a hand of poker or a game of poker. You're just like, hey, deal me out. I'm going to go play human. You come play human, you come back and you're like, holy shit, look, this happened. So we can make, this song is wild. What the fuck? I had to see the name of it because it caught my attention because I heard the whistling. So I want to see this. All we want is to smile. Fuck yes. So if the music is not significant, the lyrics are significant. If the lyrics are not significant, the title is significant. So the title of this song is All We Want Is to Smile. That's the goal. That is the goal of the human experience, to transcend all the bullshit, to transcend all the trauma, to heal it, and to get past it. So if you've heard my other lives, like I was part of the original ancient societies, all of them. I had at some point been part of Lemuria, some point been part of Mu, at some point was part of Atlantis. Now, in those first beginning spaces, we were very connected beings, very connected. but we became denser and denser and denser. We became denser because we started manifesting. We started manifesting material things. We did not even come here to breed. Like, our bodies literally made the choice to come here and play human so that we can experience all the opulence and sensuality of playing human. So literally integrating our spirit into this earth suit and like eating and feeling. And it wasn't here to make babies and to like literally work until you die. Like, not any of that. So that is because the experience became deeper and deeper and deeper and denser and denser and denser. That's why so many people are stuck in repeated loops of suffering, because they are so deeply clawed into the 3D experience and their ego. And yes, the ego is an impediment. It is a dis-ease of the spirit. It is not to be befriended, embraced, integrated. All of that is fucking lies of spiritual teachers who are not evolved enough to share the truth of that. Amanda says the music made me feel this wild, like animalistic feeling. Yeah, it does. It has a good beat. Does that make sense, Azalea? So yes, we do make, you know what, people don't understand. Okay, I don't believe in free will once you're in the experience. I don't believe that. I believe that free will occurs in the planning stage. That's when it happens. We do program or will ourselves to have specific exit points. Like, I could have chosen to die at some point after surgery that I had years ago. I was very close to death, and I was really close to letting go, and the nurse had let my daughter in. So at that point, my daughter saved me. But that was an exit point I knew I could have taken, and I knew that I wouldn't have created karma for myself or re-looped. I knew that. So we do set up those points. So no one wrong ever dies, y'all. No one wrong ever dies. That's what I try to explain to people. Like, my knowing around death is so different. I don't have the same judgments or fears or ideas about death. So we do make agreements with many people. It's such an intricate matrix and web of connection, and everything is connected. Everything is energy. Everyone and every experience that we have outside of ourselves is a reflection of our inner landscape. And it's always refining us. Everything happens for us, not to us. And so whatever is unhealed in you, you will have repeating experiences so that you can actually chisel away and heal those things and progress. Yes, we choose our parents. So yes, our mothers and our fathers. So yes, you chose your daddy. You did choose him. And I know you miss him still. That's the hard part about being human, is that sometimes we experience heartbreak. I'm holding space for you, Azalea. Yeah, breathe into that. Are there any other questions? Now we got light. Yes, there's more questions. bring them, girl. Because when I post this on YouTube, I'm sure other people will be grateful, because people on YouTube can ask questions. I have to think of them first. Oh. So maybe I should do a live just Q&A. You can write them down. All right. So I'll give you a minute. I'm going to take a sip of water. I was going to have hot tea, and my water cooler is empty, and my son did not fill the garrafons yet. So I had no water for my hot water. I could have boiled water, but I was like, no, I want to get on there. See, it's already almost 11. 10:55, double five. That's imminent change. That's powerful transformation. Does anyone else have any questions about any of the things that I've mentioned? Does the earth remember us? Yes. And actually, that's part of the shamanic journeys that I facilitate, is journeying into the heart of Gaia and allowing her to facilitate a witnessing of past timelines that you've had here, that she's actually hosted you here. And so you do that with Gaia and myself facilitating that journey. And that's very powerful to witness. I am so grateful and blessed for the work that I do. Danielle, thank you for sharing. Always grateful for all you share. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Danielle. Thank you. Amanda says, thank you, Azalea, for asking these questions. Aw, see, Azalea? It's good. Ask them all. So yes, the earth remembers us, and the trees are imparted with that ancient wisdom as well, because the trees were here before us. And so that's why they say, trees being the wise beings, that they're very selective. So I was grateful to be chosen. This is also why I talk about like veganism, right? Because they say I don't eat animals because it's cruel. But do you write on paper? Because there is no such thing as a himsa. Ahimsa is the whole idea around veganism, right? To do no harm. But it's literally impossible to live harm-free. So you must live in reverent connection with everything. And we knew that as original peoples. And animals, the specific animals that are used as food, also know that. And they know that that's their highest path to be surrendered and sacrificed. And so they already know that. They've made that agreement. So to them, it's actually a sacred path. Now, as far as the inhumane treatment of some animals, it's not fucking okay. So like, I don't eat pork because there's no such thing as humane pork. But like grass-fed beef, and especially the smaller grazing animals like lambs and goats, they are not usually treated as poorly as like pigs. So it makes a difference. It makes a difference. But if anyone who's psychic enough has ever connected with a box of prepared salad, there is so much suffering in that. There is so much suffering, all the way from Gaia being abused and overused for her resources, into the field workers, into the preparation, and then onto your table. And most of the people let salad rot in their refrigerators. Like, so much suffering happens around produce. Azalea says, I want to ask if I was once an old man in a past life. I keep thinking of this old man. Well, you were a male and you did grow to old age, so I would say yes. And that's a very old life, by the way. And so this is like ancient Nordic. I see wearing skins and like tweed woven fabric, thatched roof, like literally like a sod roof I see is what you lived in. So if you see that kind of landscape, very marshy. So look up the Highlands of Scotland. It very much looks like that landscape to me, very wet. And no mamas. Mwah. Azalea, you're so cute. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to give it a couple seconds. Wait, was I ever an old woman? Yes. Azalea, you're an old soul. You have been a woman more times than you have been a man. But you have been both. I would say a lot. So like me, I only have 2 past life memories of when I was male, ever. And I have been female so much. So my soul really identifies in the feminine energy very deeply. And I think that's why I also teach polarity, because it's so hard for women to heal their feminine energy and to get in their feminine energy. And so I embody that very well, even as an ancient being. So I feel like I miss being a man, but I am reconnecting with femininity. Well, we house both energies. So you actually have masculine energy within you and feminine, and they need to merge and be in complete balance to be an evolved being. Do you feel that, Amanda says, do you feel that when we have that pattern of being more female, it's because our first life ever was female? That's a very good question. Let me ask Spirit that, because I don't know the answer to that off. Like, that's not something I ever asked. Let me ask Spirit. I am getting confirmation in that. So that's interesting. So bringing it back, and this karmic loop that we are actually healing right now too, Amanda, is bringing it back full circle. We are trying to bring us back to that unity consciousness. And so being the original peoples, which you were there, Amanda, just so you know, like bringing it back to that original state of unity consciousness, it would be way easier for our cell memory to settle into those memories as the original state that we showed up in, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm hearing from Spirit. This music is weird right now. Okay, this is French. C'est bon. So bon is like beautiful. So c'est bon is like, it's beautiful. Okay, is that the last question? Or do we have more? It is beautiful, don't you think? Sí, es muy hermosa. That was a good question, Amanda. I like when I have to consult Spirit. Azalea, do you ever get the feeling that there's a message but you can't like receive? Yes. And in those moments, when I know there's something that I'm not receiving, I know it's probably based in some trauma block for me that I'm not fully receiving. Kind of like the story that I shared tonight. I knew there was more, but I wasn't getting it. I knew that there was more. Like, why would I get all of this stuff so clear, but not everything? And why was I crying? Was it just over the loss of love, or what happened? What actually played out? And we actually climbed a tree on that same, I mean, I'll share those pictures in a post right after this post so that you can see. But that was powerful. We climbed the tree, took pictures, all of that. And that beach was really powerful too. So but there was a lot of trauma around that, of course. It was very emotional for me to see a man loving me in an empty vessel, loving me so much that the care he showed for my body, the reverence he showed for my body was so beautiful. And so that's one thing that I didn't see with the other gentleman that I had shared so many past lives with. I left right away. I didn't stick around. And so that's also probably the reason why all of that came back, so I could actually witness, like, there is, because I could feel the deep love that my soul has experienced before. With the other one, I've actually been able to reach the state of samadhi in orgasm. That's the highest level of transcendence, creating that golden egg of consciousness. As Mary Magdalene, I had done it also with Yeshua. And so it's very powerful, sacred sexuality that I've been able to experience. And I probably would have reached that also with him, but I was killed far too soon. So definitely believe that we block our own messages sometimes. It sucks being human sometimes. So Amanda says, I do believe he felt you were there still, and he wanted to show you that, the love he had for you. Definitely, Amanda, thank you for saying that. I literally felt that in my sacral, just so you know, like deep churning, reading that aloud. He was very connected. And I definitely am in agreement with that he knew I was standing there, and to actually free my spirit, that's why he put me in the sea. And he knew, because that's when I actually crossed over. He said a beautiful prayer, and I don't know, because it was not in English, and he put my body in the sea. You know what's interesting, as a little girl, you know how I would always ask my kids, my mom would always share this same story. She said, you know, it used to really freak me out. You would say things that would just scare the shit out of me. She said when you were only like 3 years old, you would tell people that you were born in California. She said we had never been there. We never talked about it. So I was born in New York, for those of you who don't know. I was born in New York. We moved to Jersey when I was very small, but never California, never talked about it. And so she said I would tell people I was born in California. And it all makes sense now. Like, all of these little things make so much sense. How does the ocean interact with the earth? So that's the sharing of exchange of energy, right? And so the elementals are all part of that health of Gaia. It's all part of the ecosystem of Gaia. They're in complete exchange with one another. And it's such a beautiful energy, just like wind, fire, water, and earth. They are in complete cohesive contract with each other, connection with each other. And so those more evolved souls, like abuse of plant medicine actually takes you further away from that connection. It doesn't bring you into that connection. So just so people know like where I stand on that, that does not awaken you. It only shows you facets of yourself, and it does not awaken you. You're not in a heightened, you don't come out of that. It's not permanent, okay? So what happens is you are actually just stimulating parts of yourself and showing yourself parts of yourself, okay? But it really is escapism. You are meant to take the knowledge that's imparted and apply it to a daily practice of being present, of staying in your body nakedly without any crutch, tool. You're meant to be able to do that so that you can go forward. And so depleting Gaia of her resources actually takes you further out of there. So not being in exchange with the elements. So water isn't always in complete communion with earth. And all of the elements hold wisdom. All of the elements hold memory. All of the elements are able to communicate just like beings. But just like I said, there's no such thing as an inanimate object too. So here with the aloes wood, this is very protective, but it's ancient aromatic. And here I am with fire and wood. Oh God, I wish you could smell it. It smells so good. Aloes wood is really expensive. And as you see, very tiny. And so this higher mind incense, you can get it because they get it from a completely sustainable source. So higher mind incense is who I recommend for if you want to get anything like that, because Ethan does pay attention to or is it Evan? I think it's Ethan. Pays attention to who he sources from for that specific reason. Does that make sense, Azalea? I go off on tangents, but they're all in communication. So it has been actually scientifically proven that water holds memory. It's going to be literally impossible for them to prove that fire holds memory or wind, but they do. Can you access information through your feet? Yes. Yes, you have 2 minor chakras in the cracks of your feet. Right in here, 2 minor chakras that connect you with your root energy. But you also have your Earth Star chakra, which is about 12 inches out of body beneath the body, which completely anchors your energy into Gaia. And a lot of people today, by the way, people who are completely egocentric, and also those who have now been infiltrated by dark energy, are cut off from their Earth Star chakras. They've actually been severed from that connection. And I believe that those energies are what caused the eruption of the volcanoes too. I could feel Gaia. So I started just making a lot of offerings to her. Any other questions? Azalea says, I saw a late baby skunk and I really connected with their body when I saw their little feet. Oh, I don't know. Okay, so I've held a baby skunk before. I found a baby skunk in my grandmother's garden, and I don't know if you've ever seen baby skunks. They are the most, well, you saw a baby skunk, but they're the most adorable things, and they can't quite spray yet, but they are kind of aggressive. Like they'll puff their little tail up, but they can't spray yet. And so I went and picked it up, and the feet are soft, like little slippers. They are so soft. It's amazing, their little feet. And they are the cutest things. My grandmother freaked. She's like, what are you doing? It's not a cat. And I was like, I know. And then my pup-up started feeding it, but like on this long stick. He created like this long paddle and would feed it. So we figured out that it probably got separated from its mother, or its mother got killed because it just showed up on my mom's property after a storm. So we don't know if she died in the storm or what, but the baby definitely got separated from its mama. Any other questions, shares, comments? No? Okay. I am going to say goodnight. And I am also going to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your most valuable commodity with me, your time and your energy. I'm so honored, Azalea, for your questions. I'm so honored, Amanda, for your questions. Thank you for engaging with me. Thank you for staying to the very end. I appreciate you. Thank you, Azalea. So I want to say, from the very core of my being, which houses the cosmos, I love you. I love you all. And Bede stayed. Yay. Thanks for sharing. You made me cry, but there's a lot of learning. Thank you, Amanda. So I do want to say I am sorry for any misalignment that I may have caused. Please forgive me. And thank you for this opportunity to rectify that. Thank you. I'm honored. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I love you. I love you. I love you. Sweet dreams. Rest peacefully.